I'd imagine that this is gonna be somewhat awkward. Everybody, if you go back and you look at everybody's like first podcasts and stuff, it's always awkward. It doesn't matter how long you know the person or the people or anybody that you're talking to. You kind of just got to feel your way into it. And I'm just banking on, not necessarily banking, but I'm assuming the first few episodes there's going to be plenty of mistakes and it's going to be weird. It'll be awkward, but if we stay consistent with it and we just get used to it, it'll be fine. Know what I mean?
Yes.
Especially if make sure that we're talking stuff. I still got to turn you up. Is there any way that you can turn yourself up a little bit?
I could.
Just I put you up to 200%.
1, 2.
And we're good
Was
to go.
that good?
Yeah. All right. I've been recording for the last like 30 seconds or something like that already, so we could just that'll be that. We'll figure it out from there. But I think the best system for this, and what do you think? What do you think of the name? The debrief. We just call it debrief. Maybe we can spice it up. Maybe we could spice it up something like because I'm trying to figure out like general topics and things like that. Obviously, us both being RTS, we pretty much we play like all the same games, and that'll be one of the things that we talk about today. But I think a cool system for this would be we keep it RTS related because I think that's probably the thing that we have overlapping so much. I mean, that's where we originally became friends back in the day with was it did we ever play European or no, what was it, Airline Battle? Did we ever play Airline Battle together, or did we just do Wargame?
Trying to think here. I think we did do ALB for a little bit, but like maybe like the end phases. Mainly we started with Wargame.
That was definitely the beginning.
Like Red Dragon as in.
Yeah, Red Dragon was definitely because that was with that group.
Yeah, I remember us starting with Red Dragon. I think I got into Wargame like the last 4 or 5 months of ALB pretty much.
Yeah.
Like half a year before Red Dragon came out, I think I got into Wargame.
What got you into Wargame initially?
Do you remember a friend of mine called Arrow?
Yes.
Arrow Sauce?
Yeah,
From the old gang. He's the one that got me into it. We were playing Arma 2. I think we were playing Arma 2 Wasteland, and he was like, hey, you know what? There's this RTS that is basically Arma, but from the top. And he just said, you should check it out. It's kind of just how it started, honestly. That was when ALB was still a thing, so we just started playing some Airline Battle with the group.
I specifically remember seeing Wargame on Steam a lot. It was getting and because of this situation, I am never going to look at references of games from Steam the same again. It's basically a blank slate, and I'm never going to literally judge a game by its cover on Steam for good and bad reasons. Because it must have been months, it could have been years, that I was getting referred Wargame, whether it be European Escalation or Airline Battle or Red Dragon or whatever. It was definitely before Red Dragon. I was getting referred to, hey, check this game out. You might like this game. And for some reason or another, just the way that it looked, I never really clicked past it. Even when it was on sale, I never even clicked past the thumbnail of saying that it was on sale or anything like that. And something specific, I don't know what it was, but something made me eventually click through Airline Battle and actually check out Airline Battle and install and play Airline Battle, and I never looked back. No other RTS really hit the same as Airline Battle, and it was right before Red Dragon went into like a beta or something like that.
Right.
And I got into the Red Dragon beta, started playing that, and then I found that gamer group that you were a part of, joined that, and at that time it was TeamSpeak. This was like 2013 or 2014. This was a big TeamSpeak community, and got in there, and then found a group of friends that played, and then just rest is history, I guess. Just didn't really stop loving RTS games from that point, but definitely started with like a lot of the other base building RTS games and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say you played a lot of RTSs though, right? Like Red Alert Generals and stuff.
Yeah, we're definitely on the same page with that. Like, it was what was before. I want to say, funny enough, with Broken Arrow, I think it was World in Conflict that was like my main my main hooked on RTS before that, because I can't think of anything
Oh,
else
really? Mm.
other than like all that BS that they were doing with Command and Conquer 3 or whatever. What was EA doing? You remember? What was the timing of that? I forget the timing of like when they wanted to do Generals 3 or something like that, or Generals 2.
And that was definitely way before Wargame, I think. Before Red Dragon for sure.
Because I'm just
No,
curious
yeah,
what was making me
I
on
think
the
that was a
hunt
while
for
ago.
RTS. I was curious what was like, what's making me even look into or be interested in RTS games other than the time sink. If you just want to kill a bunch of time, you're on summer break or whatever. You can't. There's no other genre other than like city builders, but you still consider that kind of strategy. That can just you play it, you open it up, and 10 hours goes away in the flash of a whatever whatever. It's just a blink of an eye. It just you're done. So like I think that was more my feel. Like I wanted to look for like a city builder because maybe I was hooked on some Total Wars. I forget at that time, but something about that. Maybe it was the Sim City craze because I definitely played a lot of that too. So that was
Yeah,
like the
just the
strategy, and
idea of
then
having to strategize about your, 20 moves ahead, basically,
yeah.
with city builders,
And just before
but
we
then have it
go,
in a war.
yeah, before we go too deep, the reasoning for discussing this is something that I brought up in one of my most recent videos. Is when there's so many new players, because I don't know if you know this, but there are a ton of players who have never touched an RTS game before. In fact, I'm getting a lot of comments, and let me know if
That's
you're
true,
getting the
yeah.
same. Are you getting a lot of people in your comments that think this is a mobile game? That think Broken Arrow is a mobile game?
I've had people comment that, but maybe not in like a supportive way, if that makes sense.
Probably
Like
not.
they want to. Well, it's because I'm just not zoomed in enough, you know. But like
Yeah.
if you zoom in, you really see that that it definitely has more depth than it looks. But in general, yeah, from it being from the top down, I don't think a lot of people are used to playing games like that in general. So it makes them think about it being a mobile game, and that might throw them off. So I think it needs some more attention that way.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of people because my one Tarkov reference, hopefully I'll try and keep the
Yeah.
one, my one Tarkov reference of the episode. I'm getting, well, in case you didn't know, on this end of things, a lot of people that because of how mainstream, if you want to call it that, Tarkov became, a lot of people had Escape from Tarkov be their first PC FPS game, which is like insane to me. But because it was
That is
like a bunch
actually
of like,
insane.
yeah, because it was like a bunch of console guys and girls that were like into Call of Duty and stuff like that. And next thing I know, the people that they were watching on Twitch weren't playing a game that they could play on console. It was this Escape from Tarkov game. It looked cool. They got into PCs. It was COVID. They probably spent their I don't know if you guys ever got, but over here in the US we got a check, just basically like I think it was like $1,600 or something like that during COVID for like relief, like a relief fund kind of a thing. And I'm willing to bet a lot of that. A lot of the people put that into a PC, and then that ended up being Escape from Tarkov. But it's just weird to me that was that many, that there's so many people. Escape from Tarkov was their first FPS. And assuming it's the same crowd, anybody that I get to comment this or mention this, I try to ask them if, just to be clear, if I get people saying Broken Arrow is their
Yeah,
first RTS game, I ask them
that is
just in case,
crazy.
yeah, it was Tarkov their first FPS, and it's the same. It's always so like it's this emergent into PC gaming from console, Tarkov being their first FPS, and now Broken Arrow being their first experience of RTS games that aren't, if they're coming from console, like what you,
Yeah,
because we've got like basically like what, Halo Wars. Did you ever play Halo Wars
I did. Yeah,
on console?
not like religiously, but I did play it. Yeah.
Because I got this one buddy who he doesn't get away from console. He's got a really old PC. This is one of the guys that will complain if they play a newer PC game because they think that they have a good PC, but it's like a 1080 or something like that. And then they go and they'll make a Steam review being like, "This is BS. They need to improve this." It's he's one of these people because he's mainly console and he thinks his PC is still good to go, but he loves Halo Wars. And he ended up getting a PC, lo and behold, for Tarkov to go play Tarkov. He played a little bit, but then pretty much dropped it pretty quick. but I think it's something about like the way that it was built for consoles. But it still ended up being really good. Um,
That being said, when you bring up console, I think honestly, Broken Arrow could also be run on like the Steam Deck and other consoles, perhaps if they would support it. That is. So if you when you discuss it about the mobile game commons, honestly, they could venture out into that as well. But that's maybe like a side topic that I've thought of because a lot of people are also asking me, hey, can you play this on the Steam Deck, or hey, can you play this on, is this available on the PS4 or PS5 or Xbox or whatever. I had that with some other RTS videos, games as well. So I
for
wonder if they're
sure.
planning to do anything like that or create more support for it.
I think it would be a good option for single player and for like, well, single player. I think once we get multiplayer and online involved, it could run into issues because then you got your internet connection running into desync problems. And I know that like games like Civ are really good on Steam Deck because you don't need to worry about playing online or multiplayer or things like that. And it's just kind of like good on the go, good for car trips and stuff like that. Uh, dude, another throwback. One of my oldest memories is playing Total War on my dad's laptop. If we were doing like a hockey trip or something like that, I'd be playing Total War Medieval 2 or Shogun 2 or probably Shogun. Um, did you ever get into the Total War games?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You
I don't
remember
know which one I started with. I think Rome 2.
Rome
And then
2? That's pretty recent.
yeah, yeah. I didn't do any of the other ones. I started with Rome
Okay,
2, then I did Attila, I think. Attila was great. And then I went into like Warhammer, Total Warhammer.
for sure. Oh yeah, you were hitting that pretty good because Pius plays that a bunch too, doesn't he? Didn't
Yeah,
you?
I
You were
love
playing
that
a
game
bunch of
too.
that, yeah.
I still need to get the last one. But yeah, I'm waiting for it.
I remember specifically the OG medieval. There was like an intro video where there was a knight who was running to a porter potty. It was like a medieval porter potty, and then it gets hit with a catapult.
Hmm.
That's like that's like if you
Jesus.
look it up, if I find it, I'll add it. Anybody who, if you know, you know. Um, but that was definitely one of my first, and I have this one cousin who is to blame for all of my, well, any of all of my nerddom is because of him. Because I saw him playing Battlefield 1942 on his laptop during Christmas because his dad, we during like a family Christmas, his dad gifted him um, Battlefield 1942, and this is like 2006. This is like 2005, 2006, something like that. This is really thought could have even been, it might have even been earlier than that. But he was playing one of the battlefields. I think it was like Secret Weapons of 1942 or something like that on his laptop. He was laying down on the floor. I was like, "What you playing there?" And then eventually he let me play it. And this was like, this wasn't online. This was like a single player thing. He just like opened a map and just was like running around and shooting stuff. And then I think
Just,
that got
just
me
enjoying the
into,
pixels.
yeah, that got me into like the FPS stuff. And
Dude, I don't even know what I played like my first FPS kind of motivating game.
that's what I was just gonna
Probably
ask. I think we need to do. Let's do a bit of a deeper dive. Like, what do you think? First off, first game, and then first RTS.
yeah. So I have an older brother. He's like 10 years older, okay? So when he played on a computer, like an actual PC, I always used to watch. So he would play the OGs like Call of Duty 1, some Red Alerts like Red Alert 1, 2, 3, the really old ones.
So it was the start. You had you had FPS and RTS together at the start.
Yeah, I started just playing um RTS first. I remember me asking my brother if I could play while he was doing Red Alert, and he said, "Yeah, you won't be able to play this." And then my mom said, "Just let him play," and I just messed around in Red Alert, and that was kind of the beginning there. And then slowly but surely I started playing like LAN matches with him, which was a ton of fun. And then after that, I went into FPS with Call of Duty 1, 2, and then slowly but surely, Battlefield, and um, then I went into more storyline games, but that's like a different topic. Like what's the name? Um, man, I mean, I went into like all the GTA things and like the more classic things. Feels weird
Okay,
to call them
so live your
classic
own,
now,
like
but
kind of like create a character, create a life kind of RPG kind of
yeah,
deal.
yeah, like Dragon Age Origins, that kind of stuff. Like Dark Messiah of Might and Magic. Oh, another RTS that is really 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 nice is Black and White. I don't know if you remember that one.
I
You're like
haven't even
playing a
heard of it.
god. Yeah, it's a really fun one. It's actually still quite fun. There's base building involved. There's making armies, and you can create this mythical creature, and you're literally a god. So you can create this mythical creature that is like stories high. You can feed them. It can be like a gorilla or a lion or whatever. You fight in like the Aztec times against other factions. It's a ton of fun. That game definitely kept me in RTS. Generals might have Red Alert and Generals kind of started it, but this hybrid of base building and um, creating your armies that these games kind of sutured together, that definitely kept me in RTS. So I really like that aspect more.
I'm looking at it here.
Oh,
It's 2001. It's saying I've
yeah,
never
dude.
seen this game before. 2001. So
It's a
you
ton of fun. If you can grab it on like online, the graphics look great. It aged really, really well. It's not like an old one that is like just nostalgia. It's a really good game. I would recommend everyone to try and check that out.
okay? Quick plug for Black and White, and then
Yeah.
and you think that got you into Command and Conquer after that?
I think it was the other way around, but after I kind of, did all my hours in generals, there was kind of a time where there wasn't really any RTS after. Perhaps, Red Alert, Tiberium Wars and stuff. But yeah, then I kind of dove into these storyline RTS, but also some city builder. I guess you could characterize those as RTS. But there was also just like 3, 4 years that I would just know Life Generals, played through the single player.
Yeah. Well, there's strategy, and then there's real time strategy. So there's like
Oh,
if
here's
things are
another one.
coming at you, kind of stuff.
Here's another one. Obviously, Lord of the Rings, Battle for Middle Earth, RTS.
That was I.
That was a
You talk about that all the time, and I've never
yeah.
played it.
Oh, you got to try that out too.
Yeah.
Put that on the list.
So General Zero Hour, Zero Hour is 2003.
Mm-hmm.
Generals,
It's got to be 2001.
it's saying 2003.
Really?
Command and Conquer
Damn, they were
Generals.
quick with the DLC then. Huh.
Maybe. I mean, that would explain why I was so hooked on Zero Hour and not specifically. Yeah, Generals is 2003. Now, where is Zero Hour? Zero Hour, 2003. They released them in the same year. So it must have been a DLC. Maybe that was a DLC because that
Maybe, yeah.
explains a lot. That explains why I was so hooked on Zero Hour, but then never really even knew
Like
about
quick
Generals until
succession, I
someone mentioned
guess.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe they
Um,
already had it planned and then just released it in, a scheduled way.
maybe. And then what was the other one? Battlefield
Um,
for Middle
no,
Earth.
Lord of the Rings, The Battle for Middle Earth 2, to be more specific. This is actually funny enough. The longest title for a video game is The Lord of the Rings, The Battle for Middle-earth 2, The Rise of the Witch King. That is the longest title for a video game,
You're
and it
not
still
wrong.
holds
I'm
it.
looking at it right here. It's still taking up the full
Yeah,
page.
still holds it to this day. And honestly, it is a really, really good RTS. There's base building involved, so you make the barracks, you make the stables, whatever. There's making armies, so you have archers, foot soldiers, cavalry, whatever. You can spawn in Balrog, you can spawn in Sauron after you find the ring. You can have your own hero that you create as well, which is really, really cool. You can, there's mods, there's a huge community where you can still play multiplayer because they killed the servers back in, I think, 2000, I don't know, like 10, like 8, 9-ish?
Came out in
When
2006, so that
Ubisoft,
sounds about right. 3 years.
yeah, okay, close enough, yeah. When Ubisoft was kind of going through some things. Um, yeah, no, that definitely that is one of the core strategy games that really got me hooked.
It was saying it
And
was EA here.
oh, is it EA? Okay, yeah.
Microsoft and EA.
And guess what? They have the original like music audio in that game.
Dope.
So you're like you'll be spawning in Rohirrim and then the music will come up. It's like perfect.
Yeah. All right.
You'll love that game actually. We can do some LAN games with that.
We
I bet a lot
definitely
of
need to
people have
check
it.
that out. And
I have the CDs.
this is, I this
Okay.
is, I dude, I have my fair share of CDs. I've Zero Hour. I got my CDs. There's been a bunch of RTS games like the Age of Empires vibe that I have the CDs for. There was like I mean, hey, I've got the World in Conflict CD pack. I've
Oh,
got the
really?
Rise of the Reds. In fact, there was a pack. I'm surprised I remember this. There was a pack that you could get for World in Conflict. Shoot, what was it? Soviet Assault, World in Conflict. Is that what it was? Soviet Assault was like the DLC or something like that,
I think so. Yeah, Soviet assault. Yeah.
where it was like a cloth box. It was like a felt cloth texture box with the Soviet flag on one part and the American flag on one part, and it came with a piece of the Berlin Wall. It came with a
Jesus.
piece of the Berlin Wall in the
Dude, I
game,
remember that actually.
in the packaging. I remember
God
I
damn.
remember having that, and there was like the soundtrack and stuff like that, and I had that. I had that somewhere. Um, who knows if it was actually the Berlin Wall, but it was a piece
Just
of
did a
concrete. They
like,
put some tape on or something like that.
yeah,
Who
bit
knows
of
what the fuck it
roadside
was?
curb, from Detroit.
Um,
That's funny.
that's somewhere. Speaking of having physical CDs for this stuff,
Yeah.
but I think timing wise, I think I was more into like the shoot. What was I mean? Definitely like Age of Empires vibe. It seems like this will
Okay.
play a lot like Age of Empires, and then there's like there was another one that was like a world that was like Age of Empires vibe esque. I think that's what kept me occupied, and then toss Total War in there for sure. Definitely kept me occupied through those days. For like the 2006. Now then, for me, that's when my FPS really came back.
Right.
That's I've heavy Call of Duty play, and then I left the nerd behind quite a bit during those days because that's when hockey really started up. 12, 13 into this is my age being 2000, not 2012, but like my actual age 12, 13, 14 up to 16, like really heavy, very few video games, but if it was like single player stuff and RTS stuff that I could play
Yeah.
alone. And then if I had internet connection, I was playing Call of Duty. I was playing Call of Duty with the boys 100%.
Like Modern Warfare 2 and Bad Company 2.
Oh, Modern Warfare. So I played like Modern Warfare was Call of Duty 4 was what got me hooked. Like I got my Xbox, I got Xbox Live, hooked. Modern Warfare 2, hooked. Actually no, because it was Modern Warfare and then it was World at War. When did World at War come out?
One.
I think it was World War 2. World at War.
Oh.
I think it was I'm pretty sure it was Call of Duty 4 and then it was World at War and then it was Modern Warfare 2 and then I think it was Black Ops.
After Modern Warfare 2, yeah,
I think it was Black Ops and then Modern Warfare 3.
Let me check.
And then Black Ops 2. I'm pretty sure that was it. I'm pretty sure that was the. See, this is why we need somebody in here to be looking stuff up. We need Bacon. If you're listening,
right,
we need
we had Call of Duty 1, Call of Duty 2, Call of Duty 3, of course. Then Modern Warfare. Then we had World at War, which is the World War one. Then Modern Warfare 2. Then Black Ops. Then Modern Warfare 3. Then Black Ops 2.
Yep.
And after that, Ghost, Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3.
It started to go downhill a little bit.
Yeah.
Ghost was the last one.
I didn't even know there were
really
too many, man.
Yeah.
How many? Damn, they released like 3 in 2020 to 2022. What the hell?
Yeah, that's when it kind of became a empire, venture capitalist empire kind of a thing. So they kind of went off the deep end a little bit, but man, that was heavy. And then
dude, I remember. Oh, wait, I remember playing. This was during like a school day. I stayed home because I called in sick, and I played Bad Company 2.
Yep.
On like this lazy chair where you just lie down pretty much almost, flat. I think I did not get out of that chair for like 9 hours while playing that game. And then when I stood up, I just fainted. I just passed out.
That's the play. There is.
I just woke up and kept playing.
There is a picture out there somewhere of for the Ghosts, Call of Duty Ghosts midnight release. In my basement, we set up all our TVs. We had a LAN in my basement, me and like 4 of my buddies. And one of my buddy who was such a hardo, funny enough, same person who I mentioned earlier who had like that, who has like a 1080 or whatever, but he's the kind of person that complains if he can't run the game on it. Ended up leaving because he was sad, or like he was like angry that he wasn't playing very well. And he's like, it's
Right.
the setup. I need to go home. I need to be at my desk. So he left at like 3 a.m. to go home and it was like, or like 4 a.m. to go home. And then he played, even though we had the LAN set up, we had like everything. We had the snacks and everything, like the most legit LAN midnight
Y'all
release.
were ready.
Great. Yeah. For Ghosts, for Call of Duty Ghosts specifically. And he ended up going home because he was mad he wasn't playing well enough. And then I don't think we really ever took it any, like me and my friend group really took it any seriously after that. Because I was pretty deep into hockey and a couple of them had some pretty serious girlfriends and pretty serious, not like super serious jobs because we were still pretty young, but like working when they could and stuff like that. And then that was kind of the end of it. But that was like really the heyday. And I don't think I really hit RTS too hard in there. So whatever those years were, I don't think I hit RTS too hard. But at some point got hooked on Civ. You ever get into Civ?
Honestly, no. I've never touched Civ.
Yeah, for some reason, Civ 5, I got hooked on Civ 5. But actually, I'm remembering now. It was involved with that friend group that we had on that TeamSpeak, which I think the timing actually works out pretty well. Somebody on there was playing Civ 5. I picked it up. I started playing it, got hooked to the point where there would even be calls where we were like arguing with each other. Why'd you attack me? Why'd you like stuff like that? And then I still haven't looked back. I mean, Civ 7 recently came out. They just put out a DLC for that. I'm still pretty hooked on that. I've already got hundreds of hours in the game. And then I think from Call of Duty, there was definitely a Battlefield phase in there.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what I'm forgetting? The Arma phase.
Yeah, Arma was a good one.
Dude.
I played Arma 2 mainly. Okay, so Arma 2 may be a weird one. So I just played Wasteland mostly in like Arma 2 Operation Arrowhead. I loved Wasteland. Bit of King of the Hill, but Wasteland was kind of like the sweet spot between multiplayer, team deathmatch, and kind of like open world-ish. Because I remember just getting a tank, and the server would reset every 12 hours, right? So I would get a tank, like an Abrams. I would go crazy, then I hide it in the bush while I go to work for 6 hours, then come back and get the tank again. Like, those were the good times there, and mainly just the mods like DayZ. Yeah, Arma was a big one, actually. I forgot about that, too.
Because I was forgetting.
I still have a picture somewhere of me and my buddies landing, like, Su-25s at a dam to rearm.
Landing the Su-25s in Arma at a dam?
Yeah, we were really good with A10s and Su-25s. We could just perfectly plop those things down after the treetops and just smack it on the ground and be able to rearm it where you're not supposed to be able to land with a plane.
Right.
I'm pretty sure I have it somewhere. Wait, I actually have the picture here.
Send it to me in Discord. I'll put it up.
Yeah, this was man, this is a good times. That screen is like, the resolution is that was a weird screen. It was like 630p or something. Here you go.
So I'm pretty sure. Dang.
We landed it there, dude.
Oh, I know the great. UI. I know the UI. I know the vibes.
Yeah.
Of it.
Still got that nickname.
Yeah.
Bottom right there. That was great.
Yeah. Nicknames are another topic because when I was taking Call of Duty seriously, I changed my name all the time. I was all over the place. But the timing, as I'm looking at it here, I was wondering where World and Conflict fit into things. So World and Conflict, which we've already talked, I think, enough about, but it's just definitely like super into that. That was 2007. So that would have been right up to my beginning of my Call of Duty phase. So World and Conflict was my last RTS before Call of Duty. And then Call of Duty brought me into Arma on the PC. And then eventually somewhere in the Arma days between 2013 and I would say, actually no, that would have been a little bit sooner because 2013 was the same year for Wargame Red Dragon. So the combo of Arma and Wargame kept me hooked. And then what was that year? Oh, dude, that is the time. So that was my
2013, 12,
final
13-ish.
right. So IRL, potentially too much info on here. I talk about it all the time.
Hmm.
Lots of concussions. That was my final, really, like, that was the end of my quote unquote hockey career. Stopping there because of the injuries and concussions. And that, dude, oh, there would not have been a better perfect storm between like having my surgeries and being out, couldn't be on my feet. And then we've got, dude, that's exactly what it was. And we've got, because that is the year, War Game, Red Dragon, and Arma 3. And that year. Oh, that was like exact perfect storm, perfect timing for me. And then we have that War Game community, that RTS community, and then didn't really look back from there. So Call of Duty up to can't play hockey anymore, Arma 3, War Game at the same time. That's I didn't even really do the math there on that, but the fact that Arma 3 and War Game was the exact same year. Both games, by the way, thousands.
That's kind of crazy, yeah.
Thousands of hours on both of those games. And just never looked back from there. That's yeah, that's pretty crazy. And then Arma brought me into the kind of like realistic shooter, understanding how to communicate and shoot and move, communicate, all that stuff with taking Arma quote unquote seriously with the milsim stuff that I was doing. And then that brought me into somebody somewhere on one of those communities talked about this game, Escape from Tarkov. And that brought me up to today, pretty much.
And you got to that. Yeah. Man. It's definitely been a crazy ride if you look back, for sure. I wonder what the RTS future is going to be, though. Maybe, hopefully, with Broken Arrow, there will be new life in the genre. But it's definitely, I mean, this is just a general gamer, like, generation kind of thing, though. I don't think a lot of people nowadays that are at the same age that we were when we started with RTS, they don't really want to like invest too much into the learning part of these kind of games, if that makes sense. You know, like the simpler games just do better with the newer. I mean, I sound like a boomer now, but like with the newer gamer generation.
Well, you're
You
on
know
the
what I
right
mean?
track. In my opinion, completely cut off. This is just my opinion. I
Yeah.
think that you are on the right track, but I think that the newest generation wants it at their fingertips. Fingertips. They want the
Yeah.
mobile. They either want mobile, something they can play anywhere, anytime, or they want something crazy and super advanced and specifically exactly what they're looking for. Because if they're going to invest the time into either sitting on the couch with a controller and playing it, or being on a PC and really getting hooked on a game, they want it to
Right.
really be really exactly what they're looking for, or just something that they can just get distracted with and play anytime they want. Same thing with like the swipe apps these days, and like YouTube Shorts and TikTok and all that stuff. Something quick. So the something
Yeah,
quick
exactly.
definitely feeds into the RTS, and because for some reason we talked about our history playing our games, but what we didn't talk about at all was the absolute shitstorm that became of the RTS genre, because I think it became so popular through games that we didn't even really touch. Did you even ever play StarCraft?
No, never.
Same, dude. I never played it. I never
Yeah.
really got into it at all. And that was one of the games that my cousin, who initially got me into all this, something I didn't really touch on, but something that got me like kind of understanding what strategy games were, was he was playing Warcraft, the original Warcraft, before World of Warcraft even came out. He was playing Warcraft on his laptop when he wasn't playing Battlefield or whatever. So that got me like, that's like when I first saw what a strategy game was or whatever. So then at some point in those days, eventually I got into something like that. And I want to say it was probably Age of Empires, or it could have been one of the Total Wars or something. I think that was probably the furthest back, one of the Total Wars, or maybe an Age of Empires or something like that. I don't think I ever got into Warcraft, which got huge and still is really popular. A lot of people play the modded version, and I don't think I ever got into StarCraft. But that was the heyday of RTS, and for some reason, EA wanted the next generals to go on a phone. Mobile started popping up mobile devices started popping up, and they wanted it to be easy. They wanted games to be able to play on there. RTS worked. You put your building down. You put this. It makes the UI work better. And for some reason, it just became that mobile verse. And now we've got a new generation of gamers that are thinking that RTS games are just that's not RTS games are their own thing. RTS games are mobile games. Mobile games are RTS games. Like that's crazy that I've seen. And again, I don't know if it's from a hurtful perspective, like we were talking about quickly earlier, but it could have been people just being haters or people that wanted to. It could have been people from my Tarkov side of things just trying to be a hater, saying like this game looks like a mobile game just to say it. But at the same time, that's kind of the reality. Last several years, it's like if you're talking about an RTS game, if you're seeing an RTS game, it's one of the BS mobile ones. It's one of like
that is true. Yeah.
Gotcha, like one of the gotcha models of that. I think it would be I want to say I'm trying to figure out like what would really be like the downfall of RTS and what would be like its comeback.
I think the downfall would be making it
too complicated. That's where I was going to go with it. Basically, I was just trying to figure out how to word that correctly. I think it got too complicated.
Okay, so it can be three things. It can be too complicated and rewarding either way, even if you lose. Okay, that's
Hearts
one way. Yeah.
Another one I didn't even talk about. That's too many RTS games. Go ahead.
It can be relatively easy to learn, but not be really satisfying. So not really an eye candy kind of game, you know. Or it can be relatively easy to learn and just entertaining either way, whatever happens if you win or lose. And I think that is something you need to aim for, because you can make it the sweatiest game ever, but if it's not really appealing to the eye when you play it, it basically just feels like you're playing in an Excel spreadsheet. It's like rock, paper, scissors all day. And I think that's what Broken Arrow is trying to do. Because even if you lose, it still looks cool, right? Like there'll be nukes flying and cruise missiles everywhere. There'll still be something to enjoy, even if you're just getting wrecked on the field. And it's relatively not that difficult to learn, in my opinion, compared to other RTS that I've started with. Because a lot of the units will, behave on their own. There will be certain protocols for, when you take fire, like retreating and that. So I think, they have to be careful making it not too complicated, and also retain the eye candy aspect. And I think World in Conflict was so successful because of those two things. It was actually much easier to learn than any other RTS that we're playing right now. And it looked really, really cool. And it had amazing cutscenes and voice acting and all that. So yeah, I think that needs to be the future. Otherwise, you just create something that requires too much time, and people have less and less patience to really learn how to play a game besides a small niche of a genre.
100%. I think they're doing the right thing here. This is why I script all my videos, because sometimes I have a good idea I want to put out there, but I have a horrible job. I do a horrible job of explaining it. I think they're taking a bit of what they knew worked of the old before the quote unquote downfall of the RTS genre, which was World in Conflict. Yeah. That was right before the cutoff, which was a great game, great ratings. A lot of people in this genre that was looking for that kind of game back then. It was World in Conflict. And then trying to feed it into what is working now. Because if you go and you do something completely out in left field, there might not be enough to relate to that people would be interested at face value. Because you have a second, maybe less, to really grab somebody's attention whenever you're trying to sell something. Especially games these days. Steam, social media, anything like that. If you're trying to sell something, you're trying to grab somebody's attention, you got less than a second at best. So you got to make sure it's relatable, it's understandable to your target audience. It's relatable and understandable, grounded in what they're used to right now, which was Wargame. If you think about RTS games right now, what has like a dedicated community, It's still Wargame. Granted, if they had done it 5 years ago, that would have been way better. They would have, hell, 10 years ago, if Eugen had actually figured their shit out and hadn't gone down the as great as active aggression was, as great as people ended up liking. Shoot, what's the World War II one? Something Iron, or no? What is it? What was the World War II one? I'm blanking.
You're not talking about Hearts of Iron, right?
No. It's what was the Eugen one that they made? The World War II after war game.
Oh, Steel Division.
Steel Division.
Yeah.
I don't know if wasn't it the rumor that they lost the license to be able to use that engine and they had to restart, so they wanted to go more simple, which it seems like that was the case. I think that company like Eugen lost licensing. This complete
at some point,
I have no idea.
They did have some issues with licensing, but from what I heard most recently, they do still retain it. It's like it had to do with publisher rights or developer rights. I'm not completely sure, so I don't know the actual
talking
answer
out of our
anymore.
butts here for sure on that one.
Yeah,
rumors were heard that specific engine, that game's engine was intellectual property, was owned by some other company. They used it to make Wargame, and then they lost the ability to use that engine anymore, is the rumor that we had. So that's why they went back to what they were doing with the other games, and it was just kind of weird.
Yeah, that was a bit odd at some point. There was definitely a vague period.
Yeah. So I think what they're doing with Broken Arrow is, besides the fact that they were Wargame fans, it's just who we got at the moment.
Yeah.
Besides the fact that they are Wargame fans and they're able to develop games, they've got the abilities that they have to develop games. They're taking something from pre-meltdown of RTS, pre the dark ages of RTS, which is World in Conflict, and it just works. I think they're taking like the best two inspirations. So that way, it's like the best case scenario to bring in everybody that the genre does have, or as many people as possible that the genre does have. Our corner of it, at least, right? Because there's also I would imagine there's still plenty of people that are into like the Zerg Rush side of things with what's it called? StarCraft side of things, base building side of things. We had Age of Empire remastered or 4 or whatever it was not too long ago, as well. And then try and make it as digestible as possible.
Yeah.
As open as possible for potential new players, and then make it flashy to try and grab people's attention. Like this. So don't make it like what's that command? You know that command game where you can like control like entire regions of the earth, and it's like carrier groups or something. Like I gotta look that one up. Command something.
Man, I know
people
which one you mean.
People that will be watching.
What is the old man?
It's got like a B2. What is it? Command Modern Operations on Steam. This is like, I would imagine, I don't own it, but I would imagine this is like Hearts of Iron on crack, because it's like much. Everything. And you've got like naval like groups and stuff like
it's like you don't get to enjoy anything there. It's all about just number games at that point.
Yeah. That's the absolute top of like craziness.
That's one end of the spectrum right there.
Yeah, you got one end of the spectrum is the exact phrasing I was looking for. Correct. There you go. Nice catch on that one. That was definitely the right phrasing there. And then you go all the way down to mobile games. So what's something in the middle? Find something in the middle would probably be like a war game. And can we dumb it down a little bit? Maybe not correct verbiage there, but just kind of make it a bit more open, get people interested into it, really build up the following, build up the community, build up the genre, and then maybe we split off a little bit here or there. Maybe we just, all right, now there's this other option for this other DLC or maybe a game mode or something down the line that is like, all right, you want to amp up the difficulty a little bit, you go this direction. You want to keep it the same, you go this direction, good to go there. So I don't actually know if we've had this conversation before, and this is something that we can kind of end off with, is it seems like the direction of Broken Arrow right now is what I was just mentioning. So they do not want to focus on the multiplayer, as accessible as it's going to be and as much as it is going to be there. and all the units are there and there's a bit of balance there as well, they don't want to spend their time really focusing on managing and balancing on the multiplayer side of things. They would much rather put their time into getting the scenario editor there, the co-op, the single player campaign, things like that for that kind of gameplay, and bring in a newer audience where if they're interested, then they can possibly dive into the multiplayer side of things if again they're interested, and have it be tolerable, have it be digestible. What do you think on that side of things?
I think, yeah, that is definitely what they need to aim for. I think they are aiming for that as well with Broken Arrow, while still catering, because a large part of their population is still like war gamers, right?
For a
So
Broken Arrow,
yeah, for Broken
it
Arrow, for
has to be,
example.
right? It would have to be.
Yeah. So I think they're trying to keep that keep that group happy by making it not too easy. So there is thinking involved in a match, while making it not that big of a deal if you're completely new to RTS, and you'll be up and running in pretty much no time after doing like maybe a tutorial in game. So I think they're definitely aiming for the perfect balance. I just hope they don't overcomplicate it later with all these small tweaks that make, a big difference on the battlefield, basically, if you just know how to use a unit a little bit better than the other person. Because then new people will just get curb stomped and maybe feel demotivated. I mean, I know I would be if I'm just trying to have fun, real quick with my limited time.
Yeah, the curb stomp is the issue. So
It is gonna happen, but
right.
even if that happens, if it looks cool and you seem to enjoy it, not literally, you seem to enjoy the match, you get nuked from 4 people at the same time, I would not even be angry at that. That would look cool, you know?
100%.
So I think the game helps actually. The way the visuals look, it helps to make the game feel more accessible, look more accessible, and also just play more fun in general.
Right. So whenever I get somebody that admits that RTS that Broken Arrow is their first PC RTS, I ask them if there's anything that they think they should change. This is acting like I freaking
Yeah.
work for them. It's just like genuinely like it's just trying to get some interesting feedback that I might be able to use in videos or something that might help me down the line. But it is genuine feedback that I pass along to the devs, and every
Mm-hmm.
single one of them say there needs to be a bigger penalty for people leaving a game in multiplayer, and there needs to be a surrender vote option
Oh, right.
because they want to do well, they want to play the game, but they've got so many issues with people past the cheater problem, obviously. But that was just a given. Like, yeah, don't let's put some anti-cheat up there. But in case
Yeah,
anybody
that's
isn't
probably a
aware,
good idea.
in case anybody doesn't know, it's actually not a good idea to put anti-cheat in a test, because whatever system that you put in place to stop cheaters, if you put it in the test, that just gives them more time to figure out a way through it. So every lock
Fair.
has a
Yeah.
key, and the instant that they gain access to the game with the anti-cheat there, they're going to start whittling their key. So the less time they have to work on that, the better. And
Yeah,
ideally,
fair
you
enough.
release it at once. You give a bit of a window where hopefully there's no cheaters, there's nobody in there because they don't even know what you're going to do to try and combat that. But it could be a bigger problem than we think because they're not going to encrypt any of the files. Is another thing. Honestly, I think that's a topic for another day in terms of modding and things like that, because that's a whole other. There's some crazy shit like Warhammer 40k mods, World War II mods, and things like that. Complete other discussion that's going to be really cool down the line. Something else that they can do. But um, when I ask, going back to what I was mentioning before, it's actually been the same. So when I talk to other content creators who could be RTS people, shout out Sacriel. This was one of the people I was having a conversation with, and they mentioned the same thing. They want Sacriel wants a surrender option, and they want a much bigger penalty for people that leave the game because it's people just leave and then it's a problem. I asked the devs, FLX in particular, about this, and he actually has a really good response about it. He said that because it was the beta, they don't want to punish people for leaving a game when it could have been the result of a bug or somebody was cheating on the other team. So they've got stuff coming for that side of things. They've got stuff coming that's going to punish you for leaving a game or have some kind of vote to surrender issue or something or problem. option down the line. But they didn't add those right now because you could be the only one that's suffering from a bug. Meanwhile, the 4 other players still want to keep playing
Yeah,
and don't have
true.
issues. So then they won't vote to surrender, and then you end up leaving anyway. And then if you do end up leaving, you don't get punished because you have that bug. So that's why they didn't do that there. But
Yeah, they did have it in
go ahead.
the earlier one, right?
I don't
When
remember.
you left, you couldn't join for like 10 minutes or something.
Well, they had that this time, but so what? 10 minutes,
Yeah,
you go make a sandwich or whatever.
pretty
You,
much.
you scroll YouTube for a few minutes, and come back. That was. There was a few games where I had cheaters and I had left, and that's what was happening. After reporting them, of course, which is also another thing to keep in mind too. You got that bug report button too when that pops up. Here I am being a dev again when I'm not. So that being the issue for new players, I've been pushing to try and get them to do a little bit of a different kind of approach to like a new user experience. You mentioned tutorials earlier. Something
Yeah.
that I wish that they would set up is like an intro, sort of almost like a ranking system. And I'll let you give your take on this too. Let me just full explain what I'm thinking here. Where if it is your first time playing the multiplayer, it's going to treat you one way if you have not completed the campaign yet, and it's going to treat you another way if you haven't completed or if you have completed the campaign yet. Whatever the vice versa is, I actually forget what I said. If you completed the campaign or you haven't completed the campaign, and potentially it would be an easier way to do this if the campaign gives you some kind of levels or something too, and maybe it ranks up your level, or because there's a bunch of XP and leveling that you can do on the multiplayer side of things. But maybe it's just the game in general.
Yeah.
You as a player, what do you understand? So there's tutorials that you can get from the single player. But if you're going in fresh, you have no idea what you're doing. Maybe you just are new to the game, and for some reason or another, you don't feel like playing the single player, or you just want to go into the multiplayer. There needs to be something that stops you from doing that. There needs to be.
I think whenever you just click on multiplayer, you just need to be forced to play a short tutorial.
Exactly. And I
Like,
think
even if it takes just 10 minutes, just knowing the hotkeys, how a match works. You get attacked, you need to like send a supply truck, whatever.
exactly. I think that bare minimum that needs to
Yeah.
not happen because it's just not feasible. It's not built for it. So your
Yeah.
first experience of even clicking the mouse in a game is with 4 other people hoping that you know what you're doing.
Yeah, that's not gonna work. There's
It's
gonna
just
be
not.
screaming in chat. It's gonna
Well,
be like, why didn't you put down your units yet?
yeah, and it's just at the same time, it's just like they probably, for all we know, they think it's AI. They don't even know that it's another person. It's like
There,
they
yeah.
might have hit multiplayer. They still don't even they still don't understand.
Mm.
But they maybe they built their deck wrong. It's I think that there absolutely needs to be some kind of wall there that is similar to like a ranking, like a
Mhm.
shoot, what's it called? You do your placement games. So you do 5 games where you are in a skirmish. Maybe the people on your team are other players. Maybe only one of them are a player. But the enemy team is AI. So you play 1 to 5 games of that, and then we can try and figure out like how exactly that goes. Personally, I think if you do that one game, like if this is like pie in the sky, best case scenario, you do those 5 games, or that you're set up for those 5 games. But on the first game, if you have a positive KD, you just skip. Like, okay, you're going to go for multiplayer. Past that, if you win the first game, you get some kind of pop up that says there's only a couple of things, right? It would be if you didn't place a single unit, that's a pop up. It'll say, hey, this is how you do that. It'll send you to a screen that'll say, hey, these are the units. This is what they do. If you didn't play a single plane, hey, these are the planes. This is how they work. It can be a pop up that you didn't play a single tank, ba ba ba. You didn't play a single infantry unit, ba ba ba. You won the game, but you lost every single unit, something like that. Same thing. Depends on what there can be an if statement. There could be something that's hard coded into the game that based off of how you did on those games, this happens. And then at the end of it, screw it. You lose all your games. You do all 5 of them, whatever. At least you get the idea. And then past that, you can see the player's level. You can see their, well, I guess it's just level or whatever. And then you'd be like, okay, so then you can judge them based off of that because you know that they at least have had 5 games or they can see what happens. That's what I think needs to happen. Am I going to not play and am I going to huff and puff and whatever? Am I going to bitch at everybody if it doesn't happen? No. I get it. I get why they should get the game out. I get why they should do what they're doing. But in terms of the multiplayer side of things, that's my pie in the sky ask for that side of things. And I don't know, give me your take on it or whatever you would do differently.
No, I agree. I think you should be you should have your hand held in the beginning to, you know, help me help you kind of way. Otherwise, people will just have no idea what to do. They will just get in there and just create a bad experience for themselves, which is really unnecessary. And most of these older games, they start with a forced tutorial. You know, most of the like
For
99%
a
of the time they
multiplayer
will
or for single player?
some even for multiplayer, like
Well, that's because
they will
that's
be
the
like,
key thing
hey,
here. We're talking specifically
yeah,
multiplayer. Obviously, we have the tutorial already for
for
single player.
multiplayer, it the percentage drops, but there's still some games that I remember that they were like, hey, I know you want to get into multiplayer, but first go through this like 4-minute tutorial or whatever, so you know some of the basics and you can enjoy the multiplayer a bit more. I think you should have to not have to, but you should give the option so that people can't just be like, no, I don't need to, I just want to jump into multiplayer, whatever. But let's say they, as you mentioned, they lose like 5 games in a row. There might be a pop up then, be like, "Hey, I told you so." Maybe, maybe check out this tutorial. Um, because if you give, so here's it's kind of a psychology thing as well. If you have the option there on the table in the form of a tutorial and help and guides and whatever, and the player gets notified of that, still jumps into multiplayer, gets absolutely destroyed, it's a different experience than there not being the option to follow a tutorial, just jumping into multiplayer and just getting your face kicked in. That kind of creates this idea of, oh, okay, you know what? Let's actually jump into tutorial. I didn't really have like a good match. Just it calms down the emotional response to losing a fight immediately in multiplayer as well. I think even if they don't use it, it's already better to have it. You know what I mean? Like they're just being the option for help when you dive into multiplayer, that already is like a good start.
So, are you talking about the going back to the single player campaign or still having a tutorial system for multiplayer?
Yeah, having like a tutorial system for multiplayer, just
Okay.
like a short,
Flesh out what
maybe.
your ideal tutorial for multiplayer would look like.
So let's say I click on multiplayer. There's a pop up that says, "Hey, you're new. You haven't really played anything yet. Follow this tutorial." I click on it. It's like a mock-up
And it's not
multiplayer match.
forced. You don't have to do it. You can still
Yeah,
click
I don't
through.
need to do it. I can just click on no, just take me to multiplayer. Or, hey, you know what? Let's take a detour for 5 minutes. Um, that would be like the ideal initial setup, and then the actual tutorial itself would be um, someone like a voice explaining, okay, this is how a match starts. You have 1 minute to put down your units or whatever. These are the conquest points. Whoever holds more wins at the end of this and this, timer. Here's where you can put your units down. Buildings are good for infantry. You might want to like think about anti-air being further back, that kind of stuff to kind of get you going.
So a real full fledged tutorial, just multiplayer.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
like on a small scale match, it could be like a 2v2 with AI. Um the opposite to AI, or your AI teammate and the opposite AI just fighting a scripted fight, so you can kind of also look at it
True.
to learn a little bit. There could be like hints like hey, or like a pause in the match. It's like hey, the enemy's about to bomb this, scramble this plane and try to take it out. In like a really scripted way. I think that's what the older RTS games did a lot. They would script the tutorial in a way that you feel like, okay, I did that, or like, hey, I called out this plane to take out that unit.
Yeah. They could even make it
Um,
a what's it called? Scenario.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
if
exactly.
it's
Just
all
make it as
scripted, it's a
scripted as
scenario.
possible. Just make it as scripted as possible, so it feels like rock paper scissors. And then when you're in the actual multiplayer fight, you do understand the concept of okay, there's a plane coming in, probably should scramble mine, or maybe worry about my anti-air, or maybe just move my units. Then you know what to do basically. Instead of being like, hey, shouldn't my plane just auto spawn or whatever? Like it might sound really simple for us, but a lot of people that are new, like
They
the
need that.
commenters on your videos, they might not understand like what to do basically.
Oh, there's people out there that definitely like that.
Yeah.
I think the system. I'm more hard headed about it. I think that it shouldn't give people an option. So on your end of things, with your idea, you said that if you lost 5 games if you lost your first 5 games or whatever, it would be a pop up again. But with
Yeah,
your
maybe
idea,
just
would it make them go play that scenario, or would it allow them to continue to do what they're doing? Because that kind of doesn't solve the problem, does it?
No, I think when you force people in a video game to like follow the tutorial, I don't think that works in a way.
I
But
agree.
just keeping that option on the main menu at all times might be a good idea, unless their win rate goes up or something.
Yeah, I agree.
Something in the sense of that, but maybe like the first 10 matches or something, it stays there as an option whenever you click on multiplayer. That could be a way. But if you really want to go at the extreme, you just force them to go through it. But I think for us, for example, if you just want to dive into multiplayer, we've played the game a lot. You don't want to be forced to play a 15-minute scenario or whatever. That would just be annoying for us. But so just having that option would be nice, I think. Hell, I might even just dive in there. Maybe they change some things. So yeah, I think that would be the best middle ground there, because right now a lot of these RTS games that are mainly multiplayer don't have a tutorial, or it'll be like a text tutorial, or it'll be added much later in the game's shelf life, like a year or two later after release, and at that point you've already lost the people that kept getting stomped and didn't really get any help, basically.
Yeah.
So I think it needs to be added, and also it needs to be added quick at release, preferably on release.
Yeah, this is a much wider topic that we could practically.
Yeah.
Hell, we could even dedicate a whole episode to this, and we probably will. We're gonna try and keep these to an hour. One thing I do want to note actually here is at least there is matchmaking, but you have to hit the quick play option. So if you are somebody, if you're listening to this down the line, whenever you might be listening to this, if you are struggling, make sure you click quick play, because that does actually tie in people's level and their what was it called? What was that thing? That score? Do you remember what it was called? Shoot, I gotta pull up.
ELO.
ELO. It will base your matching, your ELO, into that. So that's why you were seeing the mixed games. As a solo player, I hit quick play pretty much every single time. And when you saw the mixed games, it was because there were too few people of the same ELO and the same or the ELO that they were looking for and the same faction. So that's why there were mixed games, because they were all people that were hitting quick play, or they were 2 people hitting quick play, or 3 people hitting quick play, or 4 people hitting quick play. And then if they were all US or Russia, but they needed 1 person and there wasn't anybody at that moment that was Russia, then they would do US. That's why they were doing this mixing. So luckily there is that matchmaking there, but it's not with that other stuff. So luckily they are thinking about it. There's some other stuff going on, but yeah. Any closing remarks here, Bolt?
I think if you're new to RTS games, just try it out. Just try it out. You might like it.
For sure, if you've got if you could resonate with any of the games that we just mentioned, because we fucking love this game, and that was our history. That's where we came from.
Give it a shot. Keep an open mind, because I've been no-lifing some PoE for no reason for the last month, and I've never played any game like that. So
I did that too.
This might be your next no-life game. You never know.
All right, this is gonna go up on my channel, but Bolt, where can the people find you, as well as the second episode?
Linked down below on youtube.com/Saucy. I think it's what it is right now. Saucy Network. Also right now. I don't know. It's linked down below. Okay.
As well as a bunch of other Broken Arrow gameplay. So that's gonna do it for the debrief today, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and hope you have a nice day.